This is News 10 at 5.
First on the air and first with information.
All right, we're up to dawn. Northbound dawn.
A bank robbery goes bad. Suspects take off, taking hostages.
Everybody stay down.
And exchanging gunfire with police.
Ceasefire. WC3, ceasefire.
Tonight, at least 2 suspects dead. So this all started just before 2:30 this afternoon. Reports came in that the Bank of the West at 7810 Thornton Road in Stockton had been robbed, and the suspects had grabbed at least 1 hostage. News 10's Tim Daly first on the scene tonight. Tim, what happened here?
Well, this has been an unbelievable cops and robbers scenario lasting much of the afternoon here in North Stockton. Now, we are at the scene where this all came to an end. We'll push in with our view, and you'll see dozens of police officers and vehicles in the middle of Thornton Road near Otto. This is not far from Bear Creek High School. We're just south of Bear Creek. As you say, this all got together, all started at about 2:30 after this afternoon at a bank robbery in North Stockton, a Bank of the West at Hammer and Thornton. And obviously something went very wrong because the bank robbers, there are 3 suspects left with 3 hostages. We are told they are employees from the bank, or at least 1 or 2 of them, and they left in one of those employees' vehicles. And sometimes these chases wrap up in a moment or two. Today was the longest chase, really, and the most violent chase I've heard since ever beginning in this field. For about an hour, we heard police officers chasing these suspects up and down highways 5 and 99, across the north part of Stockton on 8 Mile Road, Hammer Lane, and Ben Holt Drive. And throughout the afternoon, we are hearing on the scanner, and it's being confirmed by police, gunfire is being fired at them with an AK-47. How officers weren't hurt in this is truly amazing. Gunfire also hit vehicles. We're also told that gunfire may have hit homes in the area before this finally came to a conclusion, as I say, on Thornton Road. Once again, 3 hostages, 3 suspects. All 3 suspects have been shot. 2 of them, we're told, went to the hospital, and 1, we're told, is dead. He or she would still be here at the scene, but you thought you had reported that there were 2 dead, so your information might be more up to date. As for the hostages, 1 was shot apparently early on during this and then tossed from the vehicle. A second hostage may have been grazed by gunfire. That person was tossed from the vehicle towards the end of this incident. All 3 of the hostages are adult females. Once again, if we come back live, you'll see this is a very active scene in which police will be on the scene throughout the night. Whenever there's an officer-involved shooting in San Joaquin County, the protocol investigations go many hours. Considering the number of shots fired, 3 suspects, 3 hostages, crime scenes literally all over North Stockton, this investigation is going to take a very long time, and there are a lot of unanswered questions just as to, obviously, who the suspects are, what happened at the bank for this to turn so violent, and of course, who the hostages were, and maybe there's a possibility that one of them has died as well. That's what we're hearing from police. So a lot of unanswered questions. We hope to have far more at News 10 at 6. Walt, back to you.
Tim, a modern-day Wild West shootout. I was most interested in kind of your personal aside there. You've been covering this kind of thing for 30 years, much of it in Stockton. Even you're amazed by this.
Sometimes we'll hear on scanners announcements back and forth that are so dramatic. I'll call the police or fire department and I'll say, this is a drill, right? And they'll say, yes, you're hearing a drill. This today sounded like an over-the-top drill with gunfire, hostages, chases, 100-mile-an-hour, etc., and it was all real. It is really startling that these young people, no, I shouldn't say young, the suspects, and we're going to presume they are young males, felt that this was an appropriate way to behave, endangering people all over North Stockton. It's amazing more people weren't hurt with gunfire, as we heard, being sprayed all over North Stockton.
Yeah, good point, especially going along Interstate 5 and 99. Tim Daly at the scene.
Breaking news tonight at 11. Highway 50 is threatened by flames, closed down in both directions as the King Fire surges again.
So once again, firefighters are on the defensive, battling a destructive, fast-moving wildfire. These are the latest numbers from CAL FIRE tonight. The King Fire now close to 13,000 acres burned and still just 5% contained. More than 2,400 buildings are threatened right now. 1,600 of them are homes.
We have team coverage as firefighters struggle with these flames tonight. Monica's tracking weather changes that could make a tough firefight even tougher, but we'll begin with team coverage in Pollock Pines.
News 10's Dave Marquis once again is on the front lines tonight. He joins us live from El Dorado County with the latest and the fire raging behind him. Dave?
Dale and Christina, this is the very front line of the fire, probably the most critical place right now on this entire maybe 12 to 15,000 acre fire. We're not even sure. You can see the flames burning aggressively into the night. That's bad enough. But as we come panning across the forest floor here where you can see this fire burning, the worst news is that all of these flames are right next to Highway 50, which has turned into a mile-long staging area to try to stop this fire. Crews are stretched out all along here. Sheriff's deputies have been racing by to go on down these lateral roads here to tell people that we're on a voluntary evacuation. Now it's mandatory. They have just minutes to get out. The problem is these embers, even at night, can travel hundreds of yards, and the highway here is only 30 yards across.
We've seen this fire move on both fronts now, both the west side and the east side. For much of the morning, it was the east side showing a lot of the activity. We went west to try to get around the back side of the fire, but about 1 o'clock this afternoon, the winds picked up, some embers picked up, and we really saw this fire kick up into what is now a very active west side. Just like that, massive pine trees go up in flames as the King Fire continues to grow. This is along 4 Bay Road, north of Pollock Pines, above where the South Fork meets Silver Creek, an area that is already burned. Just a few spots were smoldering by midday, but as the winds picked up in the heat of the day, they fanned the flames back to life. So to give you an idea of how fast this fire spreads when it's going uphill, the wind picks up, it moves up into the trees, and we've heard them pop and whistle. It's so dry they only stay on fire for a few seconds before going to the next tree.
Well, we're about 1,700 feet above surface level, about 4,500 feet really above the town of Weed. And from this vantage point, you get a much better idea of just how much damage there is. And this fire really is unlike anything we've seen in quite a while, because it didn't just burn mainly forest land and wildland, it burned homes, primarily neighborhoods. You can see here this huge red retardant line going right through the center of the town of Weed, trying to protect as much property and as many homes as possible. As we pan over here and show you the lumber yard, you can see this was one of the primary focuses. Now from above you can see the majority of the Bulls fire is now out. Very small hot spots and a couple of flames. As you can see this helicopter coming in and making another drop. What's kind of confusing is the fact that this fire, again, is only about 400 acres, but the damage so much more substantial than even the larger fires, the 10,000, 20,000 acre fires we have seen.
10 years of being here, I would have never thought something like this would have happened. It's just scary how real it really is.
This is what's left of Daniel Boland's parents' home, where he spent most of his childhood.
This is the front door. You walk in, and this is the living room area. And then there'd be a hallway.
Now he's left to dig through the rubble and walk through his neighborhood looking for his 3 cats that are still missing. The fire caught him and this entire community by surprise.
And I was more in shock than anything.
Thousands of residents were evacuated from their homes when the wildfire broke out Monday.
Last night when I went to sleep, I was praying that it was a dream.
This resident's home was saved, but the same could not be said for her neighbor's house.
We told her that she could come stay at our house, that we have plenty of couches and a mattress for her to sleep on.
In these hard times, neighbors are now looking out for one another, hoping to get through this. So far, more than 100 homes have either been damaged or destroyed.
But you can see nothing left of it but the foundation, flames still burning, and just the upright, what is left of the old chimney in the fireplace. The firefight's still raging back this way to the west of us, or to the south of us. We understand they're making progress, but there are still some homes in jeopardy, and we've seen drops continuing. Let's give you a look at some of the video that was shot a little bit earlier. This was Deirdre's home as it was starting to really burn furiously earlier today. I got in there with a camera and was able to show that. Crews had to give up on it and just move around to the side. They cut a perimeter on the east, which has held so far. I'm not sure how many other properties have been lost, but you can hear another helicopter with a bucket above us coming in. But this is Deirdre. We're just going to talk to you briefly. And Deirdre Sample, you were saying what was going through your heart and your mind as you walked up this road a little bit ago.
Oh, it was just, I knew the house was I already knew the house was gone, but you know, this was such a pretty little drive up here in a beautiful spot on top of the hill, and when I got up here, it's just kind of, there aren't words for it, you know.
You said you loved the house. It had beautiful old bones.
Right, it did. It was an older house, but you know, well built and handmade, and you know, somebody took pride when they built it.
You saw the fire coming. You had a chance to grab a few things.
Right, we saw it down to the south. Pretty heavy down to the south, and this one over here seemed more minor, but this is the side it came up. And I mean, it was close enough to be very scary, so we threw as much stuff as we could grab into the car and left.
Well, thank goodness you're okay. You got the pets.
Yeah, we only have one dog.
Now you start over.
I'm too old to start over.
Well, we certainly hope you'll be okay and that you'll do well, Deirdre. All the very best.
We will. You know, we're alive. That's, you know,
that's what you have to be thankful for.
The rest of this stuff is just stuff. I kind of liked it, though.
The technology is called a Stingray, and it can collect data from your cell phone, even when you are not the target of a criminal investigation.
Our investigative team exposed how local law enforcement agencies have been using the spy technology for years without the public's knowledge. Investigative reporter Tom Jensen trying to get answers from Sacramento County Sheriff Scott Jones.
After numerous refusals to speak with News 10 about his department's use of a high-tech surveillance device called a Stingray.
We've dealt with your incessant badgering of our department over these issues.
This is a privacy issue. We were forced to find Sheriff Scott Jones in public.
Hey, Sheriff. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing very well.
I'm Tom Jensen with News 10. We want to talk to you about your use of Stingrays. We contacted Jones before a recent Sheriff's Academy graduation, and when we asked him about Stingrays, his demeanor changed.
Are you proud of disrupting an Academy graduation?
That's why we're talking to you before. This is why we are so concerned about who uses Stingrays and how they use them. Stingrays are traveling cell towers controlled by law enforcement agencies. They are so powerful, they force all cellular devices in up to a mile radius to connect to them. And they can download all of the data coming into and going from the phones and tablets connected. It's a real concern for civil rights groups who say police and sheriff's departments use this spy technology and refuse to divulge how or even if they use it.
There's a lot of secrecy about the use of these devices.
Hani Fakori is the head of a nonprofit group trying to stop the use of high-tech surveillance equipment on large groups of people, especially when that surveillance is done without judges' approval and defense attorneys being informed.
We've been assured and promised that they're not being used in that way, but we don't really know for sure.
During our investigation, it became clear the Sacramento Sheriff's Department couldn't get its story straight about using Stingray technology. Originally, it gave us an invoice from the maker of the device, the Harris Corporation, showing the department bought a high-powered antenna that extends the range of Stingrays. Then it said, quote, "This technology comes with a strict non-disclosure requirement. It would not be appropriate for us to comment." And finally it said, more documents from the Harris Corporation, quote, "exist that were not disclosed." The department's attorney said the sheriff didn't have to give us the records and cited all sorts of public records exemptions, including a state law written to protect railroads.
We fully comply with the Public Records Act. We've given you documentations that were responsive.
Well, one of the quotes from the attorney was something that had to do with rail safety, which has nothing to do with Stingrays.
Are you proud of disrupting an Academy graduation?
That's why we're talking to you before. The secrecy about the devices starts with the Harris Corporation, which forces every agency purchasing a Stingray to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which states the device's capabilities are not for public knowledge. The sheriff has been more secretive than others. We obtained Oakland Police Department records showing it used a Stingray for all sorts of criminal investigations. And when the San Jose Police Department applied for a federal grant to buy a Stingray, it said it consulted with the Sacramento Sheriff's Department about its use of stingrays. We found that especially odd because the court administrator's office told us they asked every judge whether or not they approved warrants for the use of stingrays, and every single one said no. The district attorney's office told us the same thing. The sheriff's department never divulged it was using a stingray or a like device for any criminal investigation. I also went through more than 1,000 warrant applications filed over the past 2 years at the Sacramento County Courthouse. Not a single one ever mentions the use of stingrays. There are a few for pen register or trap and trace warrants. Those allow agencies to collect incoming and outgoing numbers from a single cell device. But it's only from those designated devices, not from people in a wide area like a stingray does. And there are dozens more warrant applications which have been sealed with no explanation of why they are confidential or even which agency applied for them. If you're using stingrays, I think there are some questions about that.
Then this interview can be over.
But the judges and the DA even said that they didn't know that you had one of these devices. Why is that?
I have nothing more to say to you.
We reached out to the sheriff's department after that interview and asked if he'd rather sit down and talk to us in a more formal setting, but once again, he declined to be interviewed. Dale and Christina?
You know, law enforcement officers and prosecutors usually work together as a team, and isn't it shocking that prosecutors and judges don't even know when the stingray is being used, in what cases?
And we can't say exactly what's going on here, but I can tell you there's a story out of Florida right now where there are accusations that the U.S. Marshal's Office has trained detectives there in Florida to basically say that they're using confidential informants when they're really using stingrays. And we do know that a lot of detectives here are cross-deputized with the U.S. Marshal's Office.
News 10 has already revealed evidence that the Sacramento Sheriff's Department is using a stingray or a similar device, despite the sheriff's refusal to release any records about its purchase of a stingray. News 10 investigative reporter Tom Jensen was finally able to get some of those records earlier this week after our lawyers got involved. And Tom, this has to be startling news for prosecutors and judges and defense attorneys. They told you they had no idea that the Sheriff's Department would be using this type of device.
That's right. We asked them several times, and prosecutors told us the sheriff never told them that his department is using a stingray or like device, and court administrators said no judges were ever informed about its use either. But it's especially shocking for defense attorneys who told us this information was never shared with any of them in any criminal case.
Then this interview can be over.
Sacramento County Sheriff Scott Jones became upset when questioned about his department's use of a device called a stingray. This week, we received a heavily redacted invoice from the sheriff showing his department purchased items totaling more than $240,000 from the maker of the stingray in 2006. The portable technology, controlled by law enforcement agencies, mimics cell towers and forces every cell device in a certain radius to connect to it. I don't mean to be disrespectful, sir, but I have to be an advocate for people's privacy rights. You guys are using a device that's all-encompassing. It sounds like a general search, a Fourth Amendment violation.
Is there a question in there?
We had a lot more questions about stingrays that the sheriff would not answer. But in a statement released on his department's Facebook page today, the sheriff said the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department currently possesses and utilizes such a device, which is a cell site simulator. The device is used to locate a person's known cellular device pursuant to and in full compliance with the law. Privacy and civil rights groups say the equipment can be configured to gather any information shared through the fake cell towers.
I think that most attorneys in the government and most judges acknowledge this is in fact a search.
Mark Reichel has defended people in federal and state criminal cases for more than 20 years. He says he has been keeping his eyes on the NSA-type surveillance equipment, but had no idea the sheriff had been using the technology for 8 years. And he says he has not heard of a single case where prosecutors or the sheriff's department admitted they used a stingray in their investigations.
If this was in violation of the law, which I believe it is, then yes, all the evidence should be thrown out.
Well, tonight, 10 takes on the Employment Development Department and continued problems with its unemployment payment system. A software upgrade at the Employment and Development Department was supposed to streamline the payments to unemployed Californians.
News 10 investigative reporter Tom Jensen was the first to tell you about critical failures with that program. Tonight, Tom shows you why the project that cost taxpayers more than $100 million is still in trouble.
Work to upgrade the EDD's unemployment claims processing software continues in this underground building with state employees and its contractor. It's now nearly 2 years past due, but EDD says the system is doing its job.
Well, all the major issues have been resolved on our new system. As with any launch of any new system, you still have some refinements to do.
But this latest status report on the system redesign does not paint a rosy picture. According to the report, there are insufficient dedicated staff to analyze incidents and to fix those system defects, and that they need key resources to keep up with the demands. And it says the system has not been accepted due to unacceptable levels of defects. The completion date is still not known. That means the contractor, Deloitte, will not receive its final payments until the system is accepted as being finished and working correctly. EDD insiders tell me this latest status report doesn't go far enough, that there are many more significant defects that aren't even mentioned here, and that since the system was built on a bad foundation in the first place, they doubt that it will ever work. Is that a discussion? Is that possible at all?
Well, I'm in a lot of high-level meetings, and that's not come up.
It's never come up.
No.
EDD spokeswoman Lori Levy said that those minor problems are with the new software syncing with information stored in the department's 30-year-old database. But those EDD insiders tell me that the communication between the old database was a major component of the redesign program. And they still say that because those defects were not corrected early on, the system will probably never work right.
This is News 10 at 11.
Right now at 11, the first look, the man who police say led them on a manhunt that lasted hours.
And today, this organization, this family, has suffered a horrific loss.
As authorities mourn the loss of 2 sheriff's deputies gunned down in a shooting spree that spanned 2 counties and left 2 others wounded.
It's all really sad and tragic. It should never have happened. It was kind of shocking to hear that it's really happening in basically my backyard.
Plus, an interview with the homeowners of a house where the arrest happened and what they told us they wished authorities had done to the suspect.
For 6 hours today, we watched a spree of violence unfold, getting worse by the hour. A deputy fatally shot, carjackings, and an innocent driver shot. Then a community in lockdown, and even after the gunman was taken into custody, another cruel twist. News that a second sheriff's deputy had died of his wounds.
And as law enforcement officers, family, friends, and the community mourn today's violence, investigators continue to find new details about the suspect and what happened today.
We want to set the scene for you tonight on how all of this unfolded today. The crime scene spanned Sacramento and Placer counties, both counties losing veteran deputies to gunfire. It began at a Motel 6 this morning on Arden Way. Sacramento Sheriff's Deputy Danny Oliver was called on to check out a suspicious car in the Motel 6 parking lot. As Deputy Oliver and his partner approached, the suspect inside the car opened fire, shooting Deputy Oliver in the forehead. The suspect, with a woman inside the car, took off in the vehicle. Danny Oliver was rushed to a hospital where he died.
The violence continued about 2 miles south on Howe Avenue at Spanos Court near Northrop when the suspect tried to carjack a man who resisted and was then shot in the head. 38-year-old Anthony Holmes refused to give up his vehicle, and the suspect shot him at least twice. The sheriff's office says he is in critical condition. A second carjacking took place in a neighborhood near Watt Avenue and Fair Oaks Boulevard. There, a red pickup truck was stolen from a landscaper, and the suspects took off toward Auburn.
The suspects ditched that red pickup truck in Auburn, and then more shots were fired at Placer County deputies. A woman in the truck, the gunman's wife, captured. The gunman, though, took off on foot, but not getting far. Sheriff's deputies cornered him at a home on Belmont Drive. But before that suspect was captured, investigators say he shot 2 Placer County sheriff's deputies, killing one of them. This is Sky 10 video as officials try to rush the gravely wounded deputy to the hospital, but he died even before they could get him into the helicopter. Officers tracked Marcel Marcelo Marquez to that home on Belmont and took him into custody. He was taken to the hospital to be checked out and then booked tonight into the Sacramento County Jail.
We have live team coverage of today's events with News 10's Suzanne Fon standing by in Auburn, where she has spoken with the homeowners of the home where Marquez was arrested. But we begin tonight from the Sacramento County Jail with News 10's Simney Chewin, who has more on the 2 deputies who were shot and killed today. Simney.
Well, both suspects, Marcelo Marquez and his wife Janelle Monroy, are being interviewed by Sacramento County detectives right now, and then they'll be booked here at the jail. But this has been a very long and tragic day for law enforcement and the families of 2 deputies from Sacramento and Placer counties who are now mourning the loss of their loved ones. They were both fathers who died protecting their community.
We live as a family. Today we grieve as a family.
Sacramento County Sheriff's Deputy Danny Oliver was killed Friday morning. The 47-year-old was doing what he'd done countless times as a problem-oriented police officer, checking on a suspicious vehicle. This time, though, a man armed with a rifle shot him in the head. Oliver, a 15-year vet of the Sheriff's Department, died at UC Davis Medical Center. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children.
If the suspect is willing to shoot an officer unprovoked, then no one is safe.
The gunman's rampage continued to Auburn with a carjacked pickup truck. 2 Placer County deputies spotted it and were immediately fired on. Deputy Jeff Davis was shot in the arm. He was treated and released. But Detective Michael David Davis Jr. didn't survive.
Today, this organization, this family, has suffered a horrific loss.
You can hear the pain in Placer County Sheriff Ed Bonner's voice. Detective Davis leaves behind a wife and 4 children. He'd been with Placer County for 15 years, and in a tragic coincidence, he was killed 26 years to the day after his father, a Riverside County Sheriff's investigator, also died in the line of duty.
There's no point in waiting to show you the happy moments. These are Bob Root's family and friends when they heard the good news.
Yeah, I am pretty darn ecstatic about it. So.
That's the lieutenant in charge of finding the missing runner. And here's where dozens of search and rescue volunteers waited impatiently for the man they've been looking for since Sunday. That wait seemed to be longer than Bob was actually missing, and after close to 50 hours gone and more than 100 volunteers looking, the first thing Root got was this.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Richard Prestia is one of Bob's running friends. Sunday, a group of runners were on this trail. They lost Bob around 9:30 that morning.
I was in the group in front, and he was in the group in back, and then we took off, and he took off from the back group, and that's where the separation happened. And
everyone feared the worst. Bob was wearing shorts with freezing temperatures overnight.
Is he basically just kind of hunkered up under the bushes at nighttime, folded his arms underneath his body, and that's basically how he survived for a few nights. Vitals were fairly decent, and just amazing survival story out here, just incredible.
He's just an Energizer bunny. We knew he would. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you, guys.
The smile on his face says enough, but before getting into that ambulance, Root wanted everyone to know.
How are you doing?
Yeah? What do you want to say to everybody who found you?
I'm grateful. Thank you very much.
Christina, you've been doing a lot of research about the explosion of the Latino consumer base and Latino winemakers, too.
Absolutely. And I recently met a couple that's trying to put the 2 together, Latino wine consumers and Latino winemakers, and show them their history and culture and these beautiful stories in a bottle. It takes many hands to make one bottle of wine. And for decades, the hands at the beginning of the process have been Latino laborers in California's most robust vineyards. Mario Bazan arrived in 1973 and picked grapes for Robert Mondavi.
All these that I have now is because the people that I work with, my ex-bosses, or the owners, saw in me that I really was, putting soul and heart into my work, and so they immediately want to support me.
After years of field labor, then managing fields, then learning the art of winemaking, Bazan has a critically acclaimed label of his own. He is one of several stories that captivated Ramon and Becky Sandoval, who started a company that promotes Vino Latino.
I started, to venture into researching
the Latino winemakers, in which I wanted to have their, I didn't see there was a lot of Latino wines out in the market.
I think Ramon just saw a need to connect the Latino winemaker with the Latino consumer, because Latinos are the fastest growing wine consumer group in the United States today.
But historically, beer and hard spirits are more popular in Latino tradition. The Sandovals want to change that, and so do the winemakers.
To kind of, educate more, like Latino community, to kind of, have this experience, to drink a nice, a nice healthy wine with a nice, plate of food, instead of, different, type of alcohol that doesn't, benefits, the healthy, for your body.
Fernando Candelario never worked in the fields. He started in bottling, but he was fascinated with the chemistry of making a healthy wine. He was inspired by Robert Mondavi and said his wine is called Voces, Spanish for voices, to reflect the many mentors he's had and how each has helped him be a better winemaker.
Boys here in Napa Valley, there's always opportunity when someone is, behind you to kind of, push you to believe dreams can come true. Yeah, so that's voices.
The largest Latino voice in winemaking may be Gustavo Brambilla. He's been the trailblazer for Latino winemakers, a mentor to many. And if you recognize the name, you may have caught him portrayed in the movie Bottle Shock, which chronicles that watershed moment in 1976 when Napa wines beat French wines at a blind tasting in Paris.
To Gustavo Brambilla.
I happened to be at the right place in the right time. There was hardly any Latino winemakers.
Brambilla says Vino Latino is not only reaching out to new consumers, but connecting Latinos to their culture through wine.
The fire department had to come over here and knock on some doors and go ahead and tell people to get out of your houses because it is on fire. But no injuries to report as of right now. And that's another really piece of good news, because as we well know, mobile homes unfortunately are not constructed well to deal with fire. So once one goes up, and when they're in such close proximity, these homes are maybe 20 feet apart, if so. So the flames can just jump from roof to roof very quickly, and what ends up happening is it becomes a domino effect. One goes up and they just fall one after another. So most of this area, if not all of it, is evacuated. There's a very large contingent of residents staging over by the manager's house over on the front side of the mobile home park. And actually, I've got some fire folks over here. If I could just ask you a couple of quick questions. First of all, we're live on TV. I'm sorry. I'm your City of Napa fire. How are things going so far? It looks like you pretty much have it under control.
As far as this incident goes, within the earthquake incident as a whole, this incident is stabilizing at this point in time. Early on our arrival, we had 2 units in different parts of the park fully involved and no water to fight the fire with due to a broken water main in front. So our initial actions were just to evacuate adjoining units, ensure that there was no threat to lives, and try and basically draw a line in the sand. Once we got water, the lines held, and the plan worked, and we didn't lose anything once we had the water suppression here, or I'm sorry, the water for fire suppression.
I can't imagine what a nightmare and almost a panic must go through your mind when you get on scene and see houses that are going up and realize you don't have any water.
It's not what you want to see for the people you take care of.
Yeah, and as far as people, no injuries, you got them out before anything got too bad?
No reports of injuries in this complex as far as this incident goes, and at this point in time, we have a preliminary all clear on all 4 of the ones that burnt to the ground. So this time, at this point, it looks like we have an all clear and everyone's accounted for.
Maybe about 20 barrels fell. You see a lot of damage like this on some of them. A lot of case goods got damaged. So this one's one of the pallets that was on the very top. A barrel fell on this one, so let's see. So nothing too bad on these, but you get a lot of this, broken bottles.
What would you normally be doing at this time? We're getting ready for crush, right?
Yeah, we'll probably be getting ready for crush. We're probably going to start bringing grapes early next week. But luckily, we weren't crushing any grapes that day because we go throughout the night. We pick during the night, so we bring a lot of grapes during the night as well. So luckily, nobody was here.
Only 6 of every 100 homes damaged in that Napa quake are covered by earthquake insurance. News 10 investigative reporter Tom Jensen looking into why so few homeowners have earthquake insurance and what you can do to protect yourself.
From above, you can see the totality of the earthquake's damage in Napa.
Yeah, it is scary. I mean, those folks are facing a difficult day today as they begin to think about how to cobble this together.
Scary for California Earthquake Authority CEO Glenn Pomeroy because he's the man responsible for making sure homeowners with earthquake insurance get paid and for educating the public about the need for insurance. But Pomeroy says 94% of the property decimated by Sunday's 6.1 shaker does not have earthquake insurance. He says an outdated misconception about the cost of insurance may be to blame. The costliest natural disaster in U.S. history hit in 1994, the Northridge quake, with a death toll of 57, 5,000 injuries, and repair and replacement costs of more than $20 billion.
That's when insurance companies, for the most part, said, this is too risky. We can't do this anymore.
Earthquake coverage skyrocketed. So in 1996, the California Earthquake Authority was formed. Under the board supervision of the governor, insurance commissioner, and the Treasury Secretary, the authority has been able to decrease premium costs by 45%. But still, statewide, only 1 in 10 homeowners has the coverage.
So we've got a lot of work to do to work with homeowners throughout the state and get them to think about the fact that their home is their major asset in life.
Well, tonight, history being made. Sacramento's and Angel Camp's TJ Dillashaw, the new UFC bantamweight champion. How does that title feel?
It's amazing, man. I don't even know if I can really even soak it all up right now. It's an amazing feeling. You know, it's what I dreamed about, and it happened. So, you know, it's just an amazing feeling. Can't even tell you.
Take me through that fight. Barao is obviously one of the most dangerous fighters in the UFC. You put on a clinic tonight.
I just knew I couldn't go in there scared, that I had to believe in my skills and be a confident man. You know, everyone goes in there, I feel a little beaten by the guy just by his reputation, you know, and his great story just of all his wins is over. You know, I proved that he could be beaten, you know, just by going in there aggressive and believing in yourself.
Yeah, Dale, Christina, yesterday was a huge day for the city of Sacramento and the Sacramento Kings to finally get that arena vote passed. And today, welcome to the Experience Center, XC for short. This is where fans and potential season ticket holders and even suite holders finally get a first-hand view of what the new arena is going to be like. And it starts with likely the coolest feature, a 3D virtual tour. It doesn't look like it, but this is the model of the arena.
So if I were to press the Kings icon and back up a bit, there you see it.
That is so amazing. And we hear the fans chanting Sacramento in the background.
The closer you get to the court, the louder the fans get. You can see what's happening on the video board. You can look around. You can see what's happening in our suites and our lofts. You can come back out the front. You can see our grand entranceway.
Yep, there's the big hangar doors that are wide open.
Hangar doors. You can walk right in, or you can back up and see the plaza itself come to life. I'll stop right here just to say what you see here is the downtown plaza. So literally where the cone is there, that's about where center court will be in just 2 years. But I think this is sort of the big moment for people when they come back here. What they'll find here is this is actually what the suites will look like in the new arena downtown.
How cool is this?
Everything from the actual finishes to what your view will look like in this particular suite. This suite will hold 17 people. You can see what the actual suite chairs will look like.
Not hard to understand how a horse named California Chrome has united the Golden State. Born at the Harris Ranch in the Central Valley, he lives and trains at Santa Anita in Southern California, and his co-owners Perry and Denise Martin call Yuba City and Northern California home. But now on the verge of making history as California Chrome hopes to become the first horse to win the Triple Crown in more than a quarter century, even Perry Martin is surprised how popular his horse has become.
Yeah, I guess I'm amazed. I don't know what people think. I can't tell them what to think. He's a very good horse. I enjoy owning him, and I hope he wins.
The 18th annual Summit about Lake Tahoe, everything discussed here from climate change to drought, wildfires, a lot goes into keeping the lake healthy and clean. It is a big international event. As you may remember, a couple of years ago, Bill Clinton was here, Al Gore was here, many elected officials were here from both states, Nevada and California today, and actually it was refreshingly bipartisan. A stunning location, Valhalla Estate next to Camp Richardson. The 18th Lake Tahoe Summit was loaded with politicians, but politics stayed out of it. A bipartisan effort to find ways to protect the lake.
We are engaged in a great undertaking, working together, living with nature, and living hopefully in a way where we come together, overcome our differences, and we see clearly and we care enough to get it done.
The lake in recent years has been challenged by invasive species, drought, climate change, and wildfire. Both parties support more logging in the area to reduce fuel for fire.
So I am very happy with the theme of this summit. Drought, wildfires, invasive species. They are ruining our country, and they're really trying to damage this great lake.
Governor Brian Sandoval of Nevada was also here. Water clarity in the lake has improved in recent years, one of the high notes of today's summit.
Okay.
This summit with so many people attending, as I was mentioning, the summit was open to the public. A lot of people were here. I spoke with Dianne Feinstein moments after the summit ended. What's the good news? I mean, lake clarity is better than it was a while ago. Tell us the good news.
Well, lake clarity is better. It's gone from about 60 feet to 75 feet that you can see down. It's still not the 120 that it was way back then. As you can see, there is a lot of highway work being done on the west side, and that's important because they put in curbs and gutters, so it keeps the erosion from going down into the lake and also catches a lot of the pollutants without putting them in the lake.
And wildfire, of course, is a huge issue, which many of you touched on today.
Well, that's right. Wildfire is, and you never know when. And that's why we saw this smoke yesterday, and it was black, and then all of a sudden it went white, and you knew they had the fire under control quickly. And I think that's the key. California has suffered a lot from lightning strikes, and we have a number of fires burning up north, all a product of lightning strikes, and lightning strikes here as well. So we have to be very careful.
A week and a half ago, I drove 4 miles down this dirt road at the western boundary of Kings Canyon and Sequoia National Parks. I'd come to see for myself something my father's talked about for as long as I can remember, how his uncle, Merritt Pratt, had ended up inside one of the giant sequoia trees that he loved so much. Merritt was one of the early California state foresters, leading the agency that today is known as CAL FIRE. No one else has even come close to matching his 23 years of service in that position. Merritt was held in such high regard by his colleagues that when he retired in 1944, they dedicated this giant sequoia to him. And when he died, they buried his ashes inside the tree. Merritt's friends had cast a bronze plaque in honor of his retirement. One friend, Woody Metcalf, who he'd met at UC Berkeley a century ago when they both taught in the forestry school, he returned in July 1946 with an urn containing Merritt's ashes and cemented the urn into an opening in the tree. My 8th grade daughter Samantha and I decided to go in search of the Merritt Pratt tree during her spring break. We'd been warned the dirt road was usually impassable this early in the season, but thanks to the dry winter, we had no problem. There are 215 giant sequoias on this state-owned property known as Whitaker Forest. It took us about 20 minutes to find the one we were looking for. As soon as we could get cell service, I called my father to let him know that we'd found the tree that he had never seen himself.
Lyons Township High School.
Last fall, I had the pleasure of accompanying my dad to his 70th high school reunion in LaGrange, Illinois. Our next trip will be to Whitaker Forest, now that I know where to find his Uncle Merritt's tree.
My daughter's office.
If there is a spring in her step as she shows us around her Jamestown home.
And this is my bedroom.
It's because 91-year-old Vera Bigham has never owned a home before.
On May 6th, which is my 91st birthday, we moved into this. I got a house for my birthday.
Vera's husband, Donald, was a pilot in the Korean War when he was shot down in 1951. She never had the financial strength to buy a home in the years that followed.
Oh yes, I always wanted, my own place. In fact, I had visions of getting a little land. And
so how did it happen now? Well, it starts with Vera falling for a scam.
I gave them my checking account and my savings account number, and they withdrew $399.
She and her daughter Gail went to banks to close accounts and to the VA to straighten out pension matters. When the VA worker in Sonora told Vera because of her husband's service, she was still eligible for a GI home loan.
It's through the Lord and my husband that we have this.
Because she's 91, Gail will be living with her, and you can see they're still getting settled.
Our routine is 2 boxes a day. That's it.
What's the hurry? She's too busy enjoying the deck out back, the forest in front.
It's just amazing.
And finally getting to realize the American dream.
Well, Christina, how far California should go to win the Tesla Gigafactory was a divisive issue, with some warning about giving up too much in tax breaks and other incentives. But now others are warning that this is a wake-up call for California's business environment. At 10 million square feet, Tesla's proposed Gigafactory could be bigger than any other factory in America. It's been called by some the holy grail of economic development, promising to create 6,500 jobs, making it a highly coveted prize by state leaders.
We have 6,500 families that are not going to benefit as a result of a new job that would have been created here by the Gigafactory.
California Senator Ted Gaines was a key player in trying to put together an incentive package to keep Tesla in California, where it already has its headquarters in the Bay Area. Gaines says the loss of the Gigafactory is a sign that California needs broad-based regulatory reform.
The criticism of California as we continue to pile on new laws and new regulations that change the business environment, that makes it very difficult for a business to plan for the future.
This will be heard, definitely.
Sacramento Business Journal's Alan Young says the Tesla decision could help the movement to change California's regulatory environment, but it won't be easy.
Some people have wondered if California ever had a real chance. Tesla has said that it did, but there's a well-known difficult tax and regulatory environment here.
Regardless of what regulatory changes, if any, come at the state level, one silver lining in Tesla's move to Nevada is the potential upside for the Sacramento region as the biggest metro area between the company's Bay Area headquarters and its new factory.
Lots of manufacturing jobs could come here in the form of logistics or packaging, things that would support the Tesla factory, as well as white-collar jobs in accounting or marketing.
3 family members operate a website for victims of violent crimes and their families. A place where survivors share stories and show support for each other. This day, we share our own information about a warrant database at the U.S. Department of Justice's National Crime Information Center, or NCIC, and a shocking revelation about the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Department and other agencies. According to the database, the Sheriff's Department has 14 outstanding warrants for violent crimes, and it will not extradite suspects who are out of state on 7 of those warrants. 5 of them are for homicides, and 1 is for kidnapping. Many more are wanted for sex crimes.
Yeah, if it was one of their family members, how would they feel about it then? You know, it would be completely different then.
We went to the Sheriff's Department to ask that question and others.
The report that you're referring to, we didn't generate, so I really don't have information about that report.
But you guys put the numbers in the NCIC.
Sheriff's Department spokesperson Les Garcia blames the Department of Justice, saying that the NCIC computer system has a glitch that randomly and wrongly enters "do not extradite" tabs on certain warrants nationwide. But across the country, 186,873 wanted felons have "do not extradite" warrants, and no other agency contacted by USA Today said the designation was made by a glitch in the system.
You need to talk to the Department of Justice. You're asking me
Well, right now we're
questions
talking to you. They say talk to you. you, you say talk to them, and right now we're talking to you.
I'm telling you what the criteria is, and you just don't want to accept it.
The San Joaquin County Sheriff's Department by no means is the only agency that won't extradite certain homicide suspects. LA County says it will not pick up 77 wanted killers if they are out of state.
It makes me angry. Yeah, it's very upsetting because sometimes they feel like nobody cares.
In Florida, police turned down 4 chances to extradite Jacob Allen Bennett, and Bennett went on to kill 4 people.
If he would have been in custody like he was supposed to be, none of this would have happened.
3 weeks ago tomorrow, Stockton experienced a violent crime spree that shocked even longtime police officers. A bank was robbed, hostages were taken, a high-speed chase ended in a police shootout that killed 3 people.
Oh, tonight, Tim Daly offers a look inside the bank and the first moments when that tragedy began to unfold. Tim talked to a customer who saw it all go down. Tim?
Well, Dale, chilling details tonight from a customer who was leaving that bank. As the robbers arrived, he had a gun put to his head. He was pushed back in. And here's what happened next.
So we're robbing the bank. Show your hands. Get out from behind the counter. Move it, move it, move. Hurry up, hurry up.
That's how the robbery at the Bank of the West began 3 weeks ago. Mike, a frequent customer, feels too unsafe still to show his face or provide his last name.
He pushed us over, had us lay face down. Don't look at me, don't look at me. Look away, look away. Look into the carpet.
3 men robbed the bank that day, taking 3 hostages as they left, shooting it out with police for the next hour before the final exchange of gunfire killed 2 suspects and customer Misty Singh. But Mike is convinced the men didn't intend to take hostages. They left the bank with the money.
They get outside and we hear from the inside, drop your weapons, get down, get down. The cops were already on the scene. And they came back in the bank and said, who pushed the button? Who pushed the button? We'll kill all, who pushed the button? The cops are here. We thought we were gonna die.
That's when the robbers decided to take hostages, the 2 employees and Misty Singh.
Forced these 3 gals back out the front door of the bank, using them as shields.
During the chase that followed, Mike's been told it was the bank manager driving the vehicle and was shot by the robber sitting next to her accidentally. When the car slowed down, Mike says,
the robber says, step on the gas, step on. And she said, I can't, you shot me in the legs. He opened the door and pushed her out.
Not long after, 2 robbers and Misty Singh were dead. Mike's speaking out because he says that bank was robbed so often, 6 times in 2 years, it should have been more secure. He intends to file suit for his suffering and to bring change.
And when there's penalties imposed, banks understand that.
It seemed like a reasonable request from a man who owned all but 2 of the business condos in the Southgate Professional Center. Stephen Lipworth simply wanted the owner of Unit 15 to pay his $46 monthly association dues. Lipworth couldn't have known he was about to trigger a 13-year legal battle with a man named Raj Singh.
Well, I didn't know who Raj Singh was until he arrived at my door one day. He said to me, my name is Mr. Singh, and I am your worst nightmare.
Singh sued Lipworth for pain, suffering, and inconvenience, demanding $96,000 in general damages, plus an additional $6 million in punitive damages.
He was just wanting to teach me a lesson.
The lesson continued, one lawsuit after another, in state civil court, family court, federal court, bankruptcy court. There's so much paperwork, the San Francisco law firm defending Lipworth has dedicated an inbox to Raj Singh.
It's unusual. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do this kind of thing.
Lipworth's legal bills have run into the 6 figures, defending claims his lawyer calls meritless.
The court might sanction him, but those sanctions are uncollectible. So he's basically immune from the normal penalties.
Stephen Lipworth is not the only target. We've identified dozens of lawsuits filed in the name of Raj Singh or one of his many aliases. Singh admits in this court document that he uses too many names to list.
Oh, you're recording me? Mr. Singh, yes.
Singh, a licensed civil engineer, first came to our attention in December following a fatal fire at a boarded-up house he owns on Stockton Boulevard. Among Singh's lawsuit targets is Sacramento County, which he blames for the fire and for the problems at 2 other substandard properties he owns. He's also suing the county's Environmental Management Department for trying to make him clean up this former toxic dump site that he owns that regulators say threatens a nearby creek. Last fall, he sued the city of Sacramento over its code enforcement at this house and 2 other properties in the city. In that lawsuit, Singh claimed taxpayers have suffered billions in damages as a result.
I will discuss with you.
Singh has declined repeated requests to talk to us on camera.
Do you feel like a conversation now, sir? No.
But in a later telephone conversation, Singh told us that he's suing the local governments on the public's behalf, and he told us that we should be on his side. In both state and federal court, judges have recognized Singh's lawsuits for what they are. In the state court system, he's been placed on what's called the vexatious litigant list, which is supposed to eliminate frivolous filings. While inclusion on the list may have slowed him down, it clearly hasn't stopped him. And one reason Raj Singh may file so many lawsuits is that it doesn't cost him anything to do it. In cases we've reviewed, he often represents himself and pleads poverty to get his filing fees waived, which prompted us to take a closer look at his finances. We discovered tax bills for 26 properties go to Singh's post office box, most of them paid for in cash, none of them actually held in his name. And we've obtained IRS audits for multiple tax years. In 2010, for example, the IRS put Singh's modified adjusted gross income at $594,000, including $31,000 in Social Security disability benefits. But look at this federal court fee waiver form that he signed in July 2010. Singh claimed he got just $200 in disability payments for the entire year, and that he owns nothing of value, nothing, including real estate. Singh told us on the phone he'll discuss his financial situation if we donate $5,000 so that he can continue fighting for the public.
My dear friend, camera is not allowed.
I think what bothers me even more is that the authorities, the district attorney or the U.S. attorney or whoever might prosecute criminally, have not taken an interest in what's happening here.
Stephen Lipworth sold his 27 units at the Southgate Professional Center 8 years ago. But to this day, he's still paying legal fees, over $100,000 and counting, to defend himself from the guy who owned that one.
RJ Kahaunili has a pineal cyst. It's a growth right smack in the middle of his brain.
You know, and surgeons all across California have been literally too afraid to try to remove it. But now the family has found an expert willing to take on the tumor. But he's in Houston, and as News 10's Nick Monticelli tells us, that solution is bringing some more problems.
I try to play, but everybody doesn't really pitch well.
RJ Kahaunili is an above-average 6th grader. He loves his sports, he's on the honor roll. Oh, and he has what used to be an inoperable brain tumor.
Headache, double vision, stabbing pains in my eye.
When he was just 7 years old, unbelievably painful headaches began. Then that double vision, uncontrollable twitching, muscle spasms, and more. 2 years later, an MRI found what's called a pineal cyst, a tumor, right in the middle of his brain.
It makes me hard to move, and it also makes me real dizzy.
RJ's mom, Janice, has taken him to neurosurgeons across California. All said they couldn't or wouldn't operate.
It's very frustrating when your child is suffering, and you're right, you can't do a damn thing about it.
Except not taking no for an answer.
The scalp is highly vascular.
Through a support group, Janice found this man, Dr. Dong Kim, a neurosurgeon leading an institute at the University of Texas. He reviewed RJ's case, called Janice, and said,
RJ is a perfect candidate for surgery, and he's done many of them.
The doctor from Houston, Texas actually agreed to take my tumor.
They were on a high, finally finding someone that can do something. And then they realized they can't afford it.
People would try to give me money, and I would say, no, it's okay. My husband said, you're not doing this for you and your pride. You're doing this for our son.
MRIs show RJ's cyst is growing, so they're worried. How bad will it get if it's left to continue?
He said, yes, he's gonna get my tumor out.
To get to Houston, Janice has started this GoFundMe page. They're asking for $10,000. In reality, they'll need much, much more.
Please. Please help. He's the sweetest boy.
If you can just help me get this thing out of my head, I'd be the most happiest person ever. And you would not make anybody this happy.